what does all this mean for marketing? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through 7 principles that we've identified for growing your brand, marketing to grow your brand in this digital age. But the first thing I want to talk to you about, which overrides all these 7 principles, is this area of virtual availability that we've coined in the research that we've been doing. Now, Byron Sharp has talked in his book about 2 big drivers to grow your brand. That is both physical availability and mental availability. So physical availability meaning, are you able to actually get the brand? Are you able to purchase it? And mental availability being, do you know about it? Is it something that I have mentally in my consideration list? But what we've found that's become more and more important from this research is all about virtual availability, and that is a feeling of being connected with the brand. And so all these next 7 principles that I'm going to take you through all come under the umbrella of virtual availability. So if that's all you take away from what I'm going to say to you today, take away virtual availability and how you can optimize that for your brands, your products, and your services. So the first point, the first principle that we're going to talk to you about is getting to know your audience. And you might have heard this many a time in traditional marketing speak, but the point about this is getting to know your digital audience. Because what we've seen from Taj's work is that your digital audience are behaving quite differently from your offline audience. And it's really important to get to know them. You need to ask them questions when they come to your brand. You need to ask them questions when they leave. Really get to know them beyond just that data point. Because we know that the only way to maximise your virtual availability is really understanding what they're doing across your customer journey, through that decision-making loop. And we know that if we can nudge people, from Taj's work we've seen, that if we can nudge people throughout that journey, we can actually drive increases in purchase. We can drive frequency of purchase, which will in turn grow your brand. And what's really significant now in this digital age, and it's really actually exciting, is that we can move from just knowing your online customer to actually recognising them. So again, back to Amazon, a really, really good example of them recognising them. They make my life so easy. I'm a busy working mum. I go back to Amazon time and time again because they give me recommendations, and I've become a frequent purchaser on their site. In fact, into categories like buying chocolate for my dad for Father's Day last week. So moving from knowing to recognising is a really massive opportunity, and it's a really massive opportunity for all of us to look at that in terms of growing our brands in this digital age. Even more exciting now, though, we can start to invite people into our brand living room. Now, we've seen from the work that Taj has done that engagement equals loyalty, and that loyalty means that we can nudge people into increasing their frequency of purchase, which means we can help grow our brand. So invite them into your brand living room. Talk to them about really engaging stuff, and that will give you the permission to go back and talk to them about brands and products and services. Once they get comfortable in your space, they might stay for a bit longer, they might stay for a cup of tea, and then you have the ability to nudge them through this consumer journey online. Last night was a really good example for me. I was supposed to be revising for this conference. I went on Spotify, and lo and behold, half an hour later, I was still mucking around in their brand living room with a few albums that they persuaded me to have a look at. So they're a really, really good example of that. But that's in the increasing purchase frequency area, and that obviously is going to help grow your brand. But what about reach? Byron Sharp talks a lot about reach, as we've spoken about right at the beginning. Reach equals penetration. If you want to grow your brand, you grow penetration, you have to reach as many people as possible. Is Byron Sharp still right about this in the digital world? Absolutely, he is. And this is something that we really have to focus on when we're looking at our digital plans. You need to look about reach and the reach that you're doing online. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. It's much more complex than it's ever been. When I started out in advertising, it was 1+ cover on TV. We could plot reach on a little spreadsheet with radio and TV and outdoor. And then along came touch points, which made it even easier to put them all into a machine, and we could get combined coverage and frequency. Now, oh my goodness, the world has changed. Now the brands I'm working on, Blinkbox for example, Haven for example, we're not just looking at 1+ coverage on TV in terms of reach, we're looking at how many people are downloading our apps, how many people are visiting the website, how many Facebook fans we're getting, how many people are coming onto our YouTube channel. So I'm not saying it's easy, it's very complicated, but we need to think about reach, really focus on reach, even when we're looking at our digital plans. And as we know, reach is all very well, but it's also really important to get noticed. And this, again, has also changed. So it used to be, this is an older Madman quote, if I want people to spot my ad, I put Marilyn Monroe in it. If that doesn't work, I'll put her in topless. Sounds easy enough. But these days, it's so much harder to get noticed. Online, you have to be more entertaining. You have to be more helpful. You have to be more engaging. We have to work really hard at it. I work really hard at it on the brands I work on, and that in the world of declining budgets and increasing accountability. And what's even more important about getting noticed in the digital world is that the consumers are back in the driving seat, and these consumers have road rage. They are cynical of brands and advertising. They don't believe everything you're telling them anymore in a 30-second TV ad spot. It's really important that what you say goes right through to how you fulfill what you're saying you're going to do. So if you say you're going to give a consumer a super cool brand experience, you make sure you do, because if you don't, they will tell everybody about it as quickly as it takes to update their Facebook status. So what I'm saying here is that it's about walking the walk as well as talking the talk, so it's not just about meaningless reach. Okay, matching luggage. This is a metaphor for what we used to say about having all of your visual assets, and I shouldn't just say visual because I used to work in radio, but audio assets all lining up together on a brand campaign. But matching luggage, as we used to know it, has completely changed in the digital world. So now we're moving from having all of your marketing collateral all working together right through to your user experience. So how your mobile app works, how quickly it takes your page to download, etc., etc. And it also goes through to your brand personality online, how you come across, your tone of voice. It's no good getting an intern from Paris who's doing their thesis on social media to update your Twitter, to update your Facebook. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a think about how this all works together. And also you need to have a think about your connection with your consumers. So if you're a utility, say, or a bank, is it right for you to start getting all chummy with them online? Do they really want that? Is that going to undermine some of your credibility? So having a strategy about your matching luggage right through from your marketing collateral all the way through to your user experience is really, really important. I think actually from my experience, Bowden are a really good example of doing this. I haven't actually ever met anyone from Bowden. I've never spoken to anyone from Bowden, but their brand personality absolutely shines through to me in every interaction that I have with them. Frictionless purchasing sounds fun, doesn't it? Frictionless purchasing. This is about the notion that you can, if you make the purchase experience really easy for consumers, you can pick up impulse purchasing really, really quickly. So impulse purchasing is going through into a whole new raft of categories. So take fashion, for example. You wouldn't necessarily think fashion could be an impulse purchase. But last week, I was served an email from House of Fraser on my way home from work. I haven't shopped at House of Fraser for I can't remember how long. They must have got my name from a list and emailed me a sale message. So there I was on the train home, and I went onto their mobile site, and it was the most fantastic user experience. All the dresses were there. I was clicking through really quickly and seeing all the sizes. I found a dress I liked. They only had one left in my size, so panic set in, as you can imagine. And then before, I think probably took about 5 more minutes for me to register. I'd ordered it, and the next day it was in my house. Here I am wearing it. And so fashion becoming an impulse purchase category, you wouldn't expect it. The other thing about frictionless purchasing is that you can become very loyal very quickly to brands, to products and to services. So now I don't regularly go shopping in actual shopping outlets. I have a 3-year-old daughter, it would be a nightmare. But I can imagine that from now on, I probably become quite a regular House of Fraser customer. Every time they email me, I suspect I will go online and have a look at what they've got to tell me, what they've got to show me. And also, if you think about some of the brands and products and services that you're using regularly now that you probably weren't using a couple of years ago. So I've got a few in my repertoire now that I'm now regularly using, TruePrint being one, Bowden another, Tinder, since Justin introduced me to that a few weeks ago. And these are now parts of my daily routine that I wasn't really, interested or using before. And the last one, honeymoon marketing. I'm sure it's a phrase that you've heard before, but in the digital world, it's really, really different. And this really works in growing your brand if you look at two areas. So there's the post-retail therapy glow sweet spot. So that is word-of-mouth marketing. So I'm sure that you get a lot of KPIs when you're doing your digital planning, which all tie into driving word-of-mouth. And what Byron Sharp tells us is that the correlation between long-term loyal customers and driving word-of-mouth is fairly minimal. But what we have found out from this research is there's that sweet spot just after you purchase, when you become a new customer, where you want to tell everybody about the experience that you've had, like me and my experience with House of Fraser. So there's the word-of-mouth sweet spot, and I think we really need to have a look at harnessing that for our brands, so how we can get people to share that lovely, warm post-retail therapy glow. And then the second part of that is that you can establish loyalty levels fairly quickly. So again, going back to Byron Sharp's book, he talks about loyalty levels being set fairly early on once you start, once you're new to a brand. What you can do in the digital space is you can set those loyalty levels fairly early on, so you can almost set people's routine around the category and around the brand that you're working on. So that is all my 7 principles, all under the umbrella of how to maximise your virtual availability. So getting to know your digital audience beyond a data point, inviting people into your brand living room. It is still about reach, but not meaningless reach. Make sure that you're getting noticed. Make sure that all of your collateral works together, that you have frictionless purchasing, making it very easy for people to purchase you, and make the most of those honeymoon marketing sweet spots.